All right. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Josh Amick podcast. My guest today is Jason Aponte. He is a writer for Niners Nation, as well as a host on the Sprint Right Option podcast that you can find on Apple and Spotify. And follow him along on Twitter at Jason Aponte 2103. Last name spelled Aponte. Jason, thank you for coming on today. Appreciate your time.
No problem, Josh, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so the last time we spoke, we were kind of in limbo waiting to hear about Brock Purdy's surgery and how that timetable was going to look at. And with that seeming to be successful now, and all signs pointing him to be ready in 3 months, how do you think Sam Darnold fits into the Niners situation?
Man, so when I asked John Lynch at the Combine about a veteran quarterback, I thought the name of the veteran quarterback would give us a better idea of what they were thinking. And I think that the name Sam Darnold does let you in on what they're really thinking. You do need a quarterback who's a placeholder during training camp and who's able to take snaps. But Kyle's always liked Sam Darnold. And I think we all can agree that we see the sparkling plays, we see the tools, and then at times we see these what the hell throws. But I think he's here to compete more than people would like to believe. Like Sam Darnold's not here to just be a third quarterback at this point. I think he's here in case they're not as confident in Trey Lance, and I hate to say that, they're just continuing to hedge their bets against Lance. And Kyle gets a chance to have his Geno Smith project like Pete Carroll. So if they do find something, there is a lot of high upside in this signing. And it is a little bit tied to the fact that Kyle has been enamored with him for some time.
Yeah, I also think, or do you think that Steve Wilks being our new defensive coordinator had any say in bringing in Darnold?
Yeah, I mean, Miles Hartfield, Sam Darnold, Zane Gonzalez, come on down. Essentially, the San Francisco the San Francisco Panthers at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely I think it's a little bit of twofold, right? Like there was the report out there that the 49ers did offer a first round pick to the Jets for Sam Darnold. And
last year, right?
Bro, I think it wasn't last year, it was the year before, right? Like when he was still there. Thank God that they didn't accept that, by the way. And also it is Sam Darnold's relationship with Steve Wilks, who won a bunch of games with him. And I think when you look at the way that they utilized Sam Darnold, they took away a lot of the deep throws, allowed him to operate underneath with guys who are running wide open, and no offense will have guys running wide open like the San Francisco 49ers. So it kind of is a perfect fit when you really think about it.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. So you went to the Combine, you spoke with Lynch. I know last time when we spoke, obviously Purdy's surgery plays a factor now, but you're thinking that in the draft, the Niners could target someone like a Stetson Bennett, someone we can get really late in the draft. Do you kind of still feel that the Niners are still going to add a fourth quarterback to this system, or are they fine with the Lance Darnold and Purdy down the road?
I think they're good with the three that they have, implying that everything goes well with Brock Purdy. The person that I was a little bit shocked to hear that they worked out or spoke with, as opposed to worked out, was the quarterback from UCLA, Dorian. And it's just, again, I think the 49ers are checking all the boxes. They're going through their process, but I do think they're fine with Trey, Darnold, and eventually Purdy. And when you look back at the timeline of Nick Mullins, and I understand that precedent doesn't exactly predict the future, but it is a good data point to look at in terms of things. Nick Mullins was back within 5 months, cleared, ready to throw. So there is a chance that Brock Purdy could be ready closer to the start of the season than we think. But either way, I think they're good with all three of them at this point. But it would not shock me at this point because, I mean, I rarely have a grasp on what the 49ers are thinking at this point.
Yeah, definitely. So you kind of spoke on it earlier, but you do agree that if Darnold goes out in camp and he balls and Lance is now the backup, do you think the Niners move on from Lance?
That's a tricky question, Josh. I mean, when you look at them being able to bring in Javon Hargrave and have all this high-end talent, it's because their quarterback room is so cheap. When you look at the three quarterbacks combined salary, it's about a third of the top-end starter, just one player starter in this league. So I don't know if that's the case. For me, myself, when you break down the numbers and the brass tacks and when you get down to dollars and cents, it's hard to move on from a guy who is making so little on a rookie deal. And when you do trade him, there is some dead cap that comes along with all of those things. So I don't think that unless there's a team that values Lance in a way that I right now can't foresee in terms of, oh, we'll give you a first round pick and a player for Trey Lance. I don't know if the 49ers would be inclined to do that because of the dead cap ramifications at this point.
All right. So kind of moving on from the quarterback situation, since you were at the combine and kind of got to talk with Lynch, and after the free agency moves, what do you think the Niners are focusing on the draft? What position needs they need to fill?
Great question. I mean, I think it's three positions, and I think it's pretty obvious from anybody who has a grasp on his team. I think it would be secondary, edge, and offensive tackle is something that right now is a talking point because it seems to be the only question mark on the offensive line at this point. So you can just say offensive line when you think about how the 49ers want to be flexible with all of their players. That's why they bring in John Feliciano, somebody who can play guard, center, maybe kick Burford out to right tackle. But I think those are the three pressing needs. I do think that if they are to add anyone in free agency, and I've been pounding the table for Justin Houston at edge, Marcus Peters at corner, those are guys that, again, a little bit past their time to get paid, maybe would like to compete for a ring, can be brought on. If you're able to shore that up this year, you can still draft guys that you would look down the line to eventually compete, but it's not necessarily a need. And now you can really target an impact player and move up. I mean, the 49ers have 11 picks. They have the maximum amount of comp picks next year. All feels like it's leading up to a big trade up. So those are the three positions, but there is a way where the 49ers can shore up some things on the back end, compete this year, and target an impact player in a draft spot where they normally wouldn't have been at 99, 101, and 102 to start the draft.
Yeah, so that kind of leads into my follow-up question is last year there was rumors floating around that Trent Williams was considering retirement, and now with the departure of Mike McGlinchey, it now kind of seems like the tackle position is now going to be a position of need, maybe not in this upcoming year, but for years to come. How do you think the Niners handle that? Do you think they look towards the draft, or do you, like you said, kind of package in their picks to get more of a player for the future?
I think the way that the 49ers have shown you how they do business is in a draft, and they replenish at certain spots. They spend at certain spots, linebacker, tight end, wide receiver, running back, right? Like, and obviously left tackle. Those are where your high-end players are. But other than that, it's always either a one-year Band-Aid for someone, you know, to be Tashawn Gibson, Jake Brendel, those type of guys. But you always have someone in the back who can jump in for you. Aaron Banks with Laken Tomlinson, that would jump in. So I do think there is a precedent with the way that the 49ers roster build. They draft guys that they look for when they know that guys are either going to move on, be too expensive, whatever it is that they want to do. So I do think that you're still going to see that sort of strategy from them because they've done it for so many years.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, man. So that's all the follow-up questions I have for this interview. I'm going to interview for another project I have, but I want to say thank you for your time, and I appreciate you coming on to my podcast, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
No problem, Josh. Thank you, man.
All right. So that was just the first part.